No self-hate, self-love embrace, unconditional forgiveness, self-forgiveness, self-regulate, watch for the snake of self-hate. No self-hate, no self-hate. Accelerating the evolution of human emotion intelligence. It's about you, me, us, we can touch the sky, we can sail the seas. We are in the pursuit of self-peace. We educate ourselves in our lifetime in pursuit of all we can be. Our light shine at the same time. We are of the universe, is one in the same mind, on the same timeline. Your success is mine, my success is yours. If you invest the time, evolution is yours. Can't waste another minute. I must evolve, they must evolve, we must evolve. Our emotional intelligence, human love is our only relevance. Let me hear you yell it, I can't hear you yelling it. No self-hate, you are your everything, you are my everything. We are our everything, we are prepared for anything and everything. I'm so great, you're so great, we're so great. No self-hate, no self-hate. I love me, you love you, we love we. We exist individually in a group. This is true, there's only one group. Me and you, we'll see it through. Be this true, where the true love thyself. First and elevate, accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence. No!
Disclaimer: No Self-Hate is a mental health awareness platform, not a licensed therapy provider or certified psychological organization. All content is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are in crisis or need immediate support, please contact a licensed mental health provider or call, text 988 for the Crisis Lifeline, US only. Some topics may include sensitive mental health themes. Viewer discretion is advised. This channel may include brief use of copyrighted material under Fair Use, U.S. Copyright Law, Section 107, for commentary, education, and discussion.
Hello, and welcome to No Self-Hate, Season 1, Episode 7, Part 4 or 5, Shame versus Guilt, What Enables Unaccountability. I am your host, Kevin, and I will be your guide for today's episode. All right, so we are going to continue with the momentum that we got from the last episode, which was what causes people to be unaccountable. And we wanted to do a deeper dive into what shame was and what guilt is, or what shame is, right? So we are going to take this episode to understand what it means to have shame and how powerful and how shame echoes throughout our decision-making process, throughout our lives. And if we don't know how to process shame, it could keep us in a box and keep us locked in, right? So I'll let the content tell you exactly what's going on there. I won't give away too much, but like, subscribe, share, comment. This episode here is taking us closer to our goal. We're pulling up on emotional intelligence in a couple of episodes, and that's going to be the finale. That's going to take us through our full transformation, right? Where we learned about our trauma, our anger, our communication skills, effective communication, right versus wrong. All of these subjects that we've covered in Season 1 will tie in perfectly into what emotional intelligence is. We needed to understand these other things so that when we get to emotional intelligence, it's easier for us to follow. But I won't hold us up anymore. I want to thank my subscribers. thank my family, thank my friends, thank everyone who's supporting No Self Hate. I really appreciate it. Let's dive right into it. All right, everybody, let's get ready to get started. Let's get ready to stand in that mirror. The goal of today's episode and all of our episodes is to provide a method of self-help. As I walk you through this, I am doing it for myself. You should be focused on you as well as you go through this. Perfection is not the goal, just an excellent effort to enhance and change our reality, enhance our emotional intelligence. Okay, so let's get ready. Put your thinking caps on. Be ready to apply this information to you and be able to stand in that mirror. Have courage. All right. Have the integrity to look in that mirror and see the true things that need to be changed. Okay. All right. Let's get started. All right. Shame versus guilt. What enables unaccountable behavior? Whew, this is a good one. A lot of us today, as you know, I always say, unaccountability is one of our biggest issues as human beings. But a lot of us today walk around carrying shame and guilt from years ago, right? Because we didn't know how to free ourselves from that prison of shame or that prison of guilt. It wasn't, consciously available for us to see out in the open, right? Is we can't observe ourselves. But once we learn about shame and we learn about guilt, you'll be able to see guilt and shame not only within yourself easily, but you will also be able to see it within others. And that's at the relationship level, the work level, the societal level, the government level, just about any level. You will be able to see and have a better understanding as to why people are unaccountable. Okay. And remember, shame was part of the causes or what causes people to be unaccountable, right? Remember, we had fear of shame, fear of consequences, identity protection, all of these things, right? But we wanted to focus on shame because I need you to understand how powerful shame is and how it could just change your whole outcome in life if you don't know how to process it properly. All right, I'll explain more. All right, so first, let's look at shame versus guilt and how they drive unaccountability and how accountability actually works. All right, so both shame and guilt are self-conscious emotions, meaning they show up when you measure yourself against a standard, promise, or value. Okay, these are self-conscious emotions. You feel self-conscious about these things. You're more concerned with these things. So shame hits identity. Now, I need you to understand that. Let's say I did something. Someone says, hey, who left this skillet on the stove? And I know I did it, right? The first thing, and this is a hypothetical. The first thing I may say is, oh, man, I left the stove on, but I don't want to admit it because, A, I could fear the consequences. B, I could fear shame. I could have identity protection issues and all types of things for why I'm being unaccountable. But let's just focus on the shame one. The shame one is, man, I'm this old and I walked away from the stove and left a pot on the stove with the fire on. Man, I look like a fool, right? I'm a bad person. I can't believe I did that. That pops into your mind, right? In this hypothetical, into someone's mind, right? I am a bad person because I left the pot on the stove, right? It's not that you're thinking that, but instinctively, if you're not paying attention to how you react when you're told, when it's time for accountability, you will fall under that if you don't pay attention. Right? So we want to pay attention to when people tell us we did things that we're not necessarily happy about, identifying and separating shame from guilt. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. We want to focus more on guilt. And I'll explain why later as we dive into guilt and just get a full definition and understanding of how we can leverage guilt to better our lives and better ourselves. All right. Now, that difference is why shame usually pulls people into defense, while guilt can pull people into repair. Right? I am a bad person versus I did something bad. And when you use shame, you say I am a bad person. That really resonates with self-identity and who you identify yourself as. And if you do something that doesn't necessarily align with who you identify as, you may think you're a bad person. But I want to tell everyone that's watching this, you are not a bad person. You are a human having an experience you've never had before. And you are going to make some mistakes. All right. And you're going to have opportunities to fix those mistakes. But you are not a bad person. OK, you may need some knowledge in some areas. You may need to become more self-aware. You may need to self-regulate more. But there's always another option. There's always a way up. So never think that you're a bad person. You know, now there are some things we can do as humans that's pretty bad. OK, what I'm telling you is, for the sake of no self-hate in the self-help journey that we all are on, and most of us are good people. I would like to assume that most humans are good people. We have good. We learned that in Right versus Wrong, that episode where we talked about instinctively at birth, you know, seen across the animal kingdom, not just humans, that people have a sense of right and wrong. Right. So most of us are good at heart. OK, I don't want you to ever forget that, no matter what mistake you make. Right. For me, when I make mistakes, and if they're too heavy or something really heavy, what do? I ask God for forgiveness. I forgive myself, and I ask the person for forgiveness. Right. I take accountability, and that frees me. And I know I'm not a bad person because I repaired that situation. I turned shame into guilt. All right, so let's go deeper on shame. So the shame definition. Shame is the painful sense of being defective or unworthy, often paired with feeling exposed and wanting to hide. Right? When you feel shameful, you don't want to be out in the open. It reminds me of that meme where a cartoon character fades back into the bush, right? Like, it's like you don't want to be seen for what you've done, right? It turns a mistake into a statement about who you are. When we make these mistakes, we think these mistakes define who we are. That's why you always have to leave the door open for people to grow and enhance themselves, right? Because mistakes happen. Doesn't mean that's who that person is. Again, that person may need some knowledge. You may need some knowledge, right? But it doesn't define who you are. You got to look at the picture the right way. You've done more great things and good things than you've done bad. So there's no way, based off the sheer ratio, that you could be defined as bad. Think about it. All right. Core message, I am bad. That's what shame is saying. I am bad. Right. And when you feel it and you think about it, like, oh man, I did that. The problem with shame is it puts you on this dead end street where you're like not looking for solutions. And there's always solutions in repair. Repair will always offer solutions for you. Shame is a cul-de-sac dead end, right? Where you're just sitting down there. I'm a bad person. I go to timeout, right? That's where you are in your mind. Now, what shame does in the body and mind. The cue, I'm being judged, rejected, or exposed, right? Someone say, you need to work on your handwriting, right? It doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you need to practice and enhance your knowledge in handwriting, right? It just means that you need to practice. Remember, if you find you're in shame when you don't have solutions. Repair is going to always provide you with solutions. All right, so the cue is I'm being judged, rejected, exposed. The meaning, this proves I'm not enough, right? If you're rejected, if you're exposed, something you may have not wanted people to know. You feel like, man, this feels like this proves I'm not enough. Look, everyone's seeing it. Everyone's saying it. The body takeover: fight, flight, freeze, anger, shutdown, or panic, right? When someone tells you, hey, you did something, you get that strong, overwhelming feeling, and it's impulsive, it's instinctive. If you're not aware, if you're not conscious of self, it will be an instinctive thing where you just immediately go to fight, flight, or freeze, either anger, shutdown, or panic, right? And we're thinking about that when we're thinking about the behaviors of unaccountable people that we watched in episode 2, right? And then the escape behavior: deny, minimize, blame, shift, victim flip, withdraw. That's what shame does to your body as you go through being held accountable. And we have some examples towards the end. We'll get into it a little more. All right. What shame is designed to do, the hidden function. This is what shame is designed to do. Shame's ancient function is social survival. If you violate group norms, shame pushes you to hide, submit, or repair to avoid rejection. We see this across the animal kingdom. You ever seen a pride of lions shut out another lion, or outcast another lion, where, you know, that lion has done something that even at the animal level that the lions deem shameful or that they don't agree with? I've seen this plenty of times on the Nature Channel or different channels where I watch, you know, animals. Actually, you know, there are a lot of places for that, right? But I see that. And that spans all the way across to us humans, where if we're in a group and we violate the norms, it pushes us to hide, submit, or repair to avoid rejection. All right. But in modern relationships, shame often becomes defensive rather than corrective. Think about that. When I was growing up, shame was used to, you know, if you had the right mindset and you were taught the right way, when we were shamed as children and in my younger years, we saw that as an opportunity for growth. Right? Kid, you know, growing up might have sweared in the church and be like, well, we're going to tell the grandma, and we're going to tell mom and tell the family on you. And that person became shamed that he would actually swear in a church. And then he instantly tried to fix, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He instantly started praying and asking God for forgiveness. See, he went straight to repair. He didn't get defensive about his offense. He went straight to repair, to corrective, right? So shame says, if they see this part of me, I could lose connection. Status matters. You may not pay attention to it, but the status you carry in your life, the status you carry in your relationships, work, all of these things matter, as this is the identity that you want the world to see of you, right? So sometimes we don't always line up or align with that identity because we may make a mistake or we may do something shameful, right? But we just don't want to get stuck there. Remember, shame is a dead-end cul-de-sac, all right? What shame feels like on the inside, all right? The core experience. So shame commonly contains exposure. I'm seen. Who you hide, that secret person, that voice in your head, the one that only knows all of your truth and all of your actions. That person becomes seen. And if that person isn't who you think they are, you will feel shame when others are able to see that person and tell you about that person or question you about that person. All right. It contains defectiveness. Something is wrong with me. Some people take shame like, man, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with me? If you ever find yourself asking yourself, what is wrong with you? You just need some knowledge on whatever subject it is that you are struggling with. There's knowledge out here and available. That's why we say education and learning is a lifetime experience, it's too much information to learn. If we learned every day of our lives as human beings something new, which most of us do, it would still take a lifetime or 7 lifetimes potentially to get through all of the information, right? So we're constantly learning. You just need to learn some knowledge, all right? Smallness. I want to disappear. Now, we gave the example of the cartoon character fading into the bush, right? And shame commonly contains anticipated rejection. They'll leave if they know. That could be a relationship thing where 2 people are together and maybe one has done something shameful and they feel like, oh, that person will leave me if they know what I did. Right? So that's what commonly is contained within shame. All right? Body level signals. Heat in the face, flushing, you become panicked. Adrenaline. The adrenaline of potentially being seen. The adrenaline of thinking something is wrong with me and everyone is able to view that. I want to disappear. They'll leave if they know. The adrenaline of that risk, of that situation potentially, if you reveal yourself, that situation changes or goes away, right? Sinking feeling in the stomach. Hey, I believe that was a gift from God to keep us straight and square, right? We all feel gut feelings when we are doing something wrong or have done something wrong. Or if we feel guilt, you feel it sometimes in your stomach, right? Tight throat, shallow breathing. You know, I did an exercise with my family over this week, and we just focused on breathing properly for 15 minutes. A lot of us aren't breathing properly. When adrenaline hits, you don't realize that you're taking shorter breaths. You're taking faster breaths, right? The urge to look away, shut down, or leave. Unaccountability. Mental fog or sudden anger. Unaccountability. Anything but focus on the thing that you did. Right? Now, key point. Shame can flip anger into anger fast because anger feels powerful and shame feels powerless. So think about it. A lot of people that you see in your life, or even you, do you go to anger when you feel shame? When you're being held unaccountable, when you're being held accountable and you go to fear of shame, which is one of the causes of unaccountable people, right? Or behaviors, right? Do you go into anger? Anger feels powerful because, you know what? So what? I did it. What are you going to do about it? Right? You go into that anger phase. You got to deal with it. Sometimes my kids say stuff to me and I have to be accountable. But sometimes I feel a little shame and I have to catch it. Right? Because that shame can turn into anger. I'm in a powerful position as their father. I could say what I please. Pretty much there's no guardrails on me but me. Right? And I have to catch it. And you have to do the same thing. It's so overwhelming and it's so fast. Before you know it, you feel the shame feeling. It happens so fast. And then either A, you get angry, you get defensive, you minimize. All of those behaviors of unaccountability were triggered from this very fast and subtle feeling of shame. All right, so shame in the subconscious. This is very important. Okay? We need to understand how shame plays in our subconscious. Not the conscious. We just talked sort of about the conscious of looking out for those triggers and to explain why it happens so fast and so covertly within ourself is it's happening in the subconscious as well. So shame is an identity threat. Something about me is wrong. When the subconscious senses shame, it treats it like danger and triggers protection. That's why you get defensive. That's why you minimize. You try all of these unaccountable behaviors to try to shift away from your shame and from you standing in that mirror in front of everyone. Right? So what it automatically produces, again, freeze. You shut down, go quiet, avoid eye contact. I don't know. You don't want any parts of it. Fight. You get angry, defensive, counterattacks. Why are you coming at me? Right? When we need to be focused on the truth about ourselves and about anyone in our lives, we try to shift. I want you to pay attention to that. How's your journey been going? Since we've been going through these episodes, have you been seeing more unaccountability in people? Right? And when you see that unaccountability in them, do you see how they try to shift real quick? Right? And they try to shift and metamorphosis to get out of that mirror. Just think about it. You walk up to a bunch of people and hold a mirror up to them. A lot of people going to duck and move out the way. Like, whoa, like they're afraid of their own self. And it's not that. They just don't know themselves. You understand? All right. Fawn, people pleasing, quick apologies with no ownership. Okay, fine, sorry, to end the discomfort. These are all unaccountable behaviors connected to shame, right? Which we said is one of the causes of why people are unaccountable. See how we go down that rabbit hole? All of the things that we've learned, how shame triggers this reaction, right? Blame shifting, making you the problem so they can feel safe again. Subconscious goal of shame: protect identity, reduce exposure, stop the feeling immediately, right? Team. All right, so why shame produces unaccountability? We kind of touched on that already, but we're just going to hammer it home. Got something special for you all at the end today, something new, just to make sure that we're retaining this information better. All right, so why shame produces unaccountability? Shame threatens identity, so the psyche protects identity instinctively. You are going to protect you. Your brain is constantly protecting you and shielding you from things that you taught it that may harm you. Okay, let's say that again. Your brain is constantly protecting you from the things that you taught your brain to protect you from. So if you feel shame and it's discomfort, anything that relates to discomfort, your brain is wired to protect you. Okay? If shame equals I'm bad, then accountability can feel like admitting you are unlovable, because you may keep, you may consistently let someone down, right? And that makes it difficult for people to love you when they're constantly hurt by you, right? Confirming you are incompetent. Hey, something at work you could have taken care of, some shame associated with it, may make you feel like you're incompetent, right? Becoming a villain in your own story, in our own reality. Not the shared one, and the one that we walk around and we see from first person view. We never want to be the villain in that. And if we are the villain, most of the times we're not even aware we are the villain. But no one really wants to carry the burden of the heavy heart of villains. It's a very heavy place. It's a very broken place. So the psyche tries to escape shame by any route available, including the distortion of reality. You see people, I've seen some wizards try to get out of accountability. The tricks, I've seen it all. You could look at it at the societal level. You could see it in politicians. I watch these debates, and I told you all a few episodes about, this debate thing I'm going to start. But I watch these debates, and in my opinion, you have to be accountable in these debates, right? You have to, when someone says a truth about you, you have to acknowledge that truth. Or if someone asks you a straight up question, you have to acknowledge that question and answer it, and then give us everything that you have after that. Give us the parameters of the answer afterwards. But a yes or no question is a yes or no question. But people struggle with accountability. I want you to just see it across society, right? At all levels, including self. All right. Shame makes accountability feel like identity collapse. The psyche tries to protect you from the collapse by escaping the spotlight, but that escape blocks the requirements of accountability. See how this thing works? And some of this is happening subconsciously. Some of this is happening with our permission, right? Our conscious permission, right? So that's how shame produces unaccountability, the mechanisms. Shame defenses that look like unaccountability with the why. So we go over this again. We're going down the path of unaccountable behavior or behaviors of unaccountable people. We're denial. Anything but the truth. That never happened. You're making it up. Why? If it did not happen, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Minimizing. Again, episode 7, part 2 of 5. We went over all of this. But you see how shame led us there? Blame shifting. You made me do it. If you didn't start it, I wouldn't have reacted, as if someone said you had to react. You don't have to react, right? Why? Shame is offloaded to you. Blame shifting, right? Minimizing. Why? Smaller harm equals smaller shame. You got people that negotiate with shame instead of just getting rid of it, right? And we can't look down on anyone because, again, a lot of this we're not paying attention to, right? Again, a lot of it's happening subconsciously where these are involuntary actions, just like breathing, just like our heartbeat. We just have it on autopilot, right? Victim flip. So I'm the worst person ever. You always attack me. Why? If they become the injured party, they do not have to repair. And there you go. Victim mentality. Watch, I want you to look at how people fight to be victims in situations of accountability. Look, something happened to me. I'm at a disadvantage. Oh, this hurts. Or anything to get out of accountability. I was hurt more than you, so I did this unaccountable thing. Tone policing. It's how you said it. Calm down. Shifts the spotlight from their behavior to your delivery. Let's talk about that one. Hey, you left the back door open and you didn't close it, and a raccoon got in the house. Oh, why'd you say it like that? No. See, don't do that. That's for low accountability IQ. We don't do that. When the truth is delivered to us, it shouldn't matter what package it comes in. Is it true? Did you leave the back door open? Did a raccoon get in the house because you left the back door open? Whether I yell it or whether I say it to you calmly. You could address my tone after you answer the question, after you stand in accountability. All right? It shifts the spotlight from their behavior to your delivery. That is a tactic that is used for people to escape. Now, when I'm having conversations, it's just like when I'm having conversations of accountability, now I just like to watch where people go to escape accountability. I like to watch, it's amazing. Some of the tactics and strategies that people have to avoid accountability, Humans are geniuses if you look at some of the ways that they do it. I'm not going to answer that question because until you calm down, until your tone is changed. Right? Image management, over explaining, defending intent, listing good deeds. Now, I do this sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. I've done this after I've taken accountability. Someone says, oh, did you do this thing? Yes, I did do this thing. But not saying my intent is right, but here's why I did this. Right. Image management. After everything I do for you. Why? Image management is restoring self-image. Feel safer than facing impact. Right? Withdrawal or shutdown. Silence. Leaving. Refusing to talk. We call this stonewalling. Right? Why? The why here is you cannot feel exposed if you are not present. That's why people get out the way. Right? Aggression, contempt, sarcasm, insults. You're crazy when people attack your identity or attack your character. Aggression when responding to accountability because shame takes you there. And again, we talked about this. Now you see how everything ties in? The causes lead you to the behaviors. And if you're not aware, you're going to be there for the rest of your life. I couldn't imagine for the rest of my life or my entire life when held accountable for things that bring me shame, I continuously use these methods or these behaviors of unaccountable people to escape. It's kind of like I'm not living. Take some chances, experience some new things. I want to experience accountability. And since I started experiencing more accountability in my life, it's better than shame. It's better than the behaviors that we resort to avoid accountability, to be honest with you. And I hope you're having that same experience. It's magical. Accountability makes conversation shorter, right? Okay. Now, shame spirals and shame attacks. Okay. A shame spiral looks like this. You name impact. That hurt me. What you did hurt me. Their brain hears identity threat. You're bad. See, if I tell you you hurt me, a lot of people are going to go straight to, well, I'm a bad person if I hurt people. So I know I'm not I don't identify as a bad person. So no, I didn't hurt you. Or you're lying. You took that. It's your fault. You don't have credibility for your feelings. You must have something wrong. The body activates. Fight, flight, or freeze. Defense shows up. Deny, blame, minimize. You push harder to be heard. They feel cornered. So after I say you hurt me, their brain quickly in seconds identifies, oh man, I may be a bad person. Then fight, flight, freeze activates. Defense shows up. Deny, blame, or minimize. You push harder to be heard. Hey, I'm telling you, you hurt me. You could take my word for it. I'm me. I can't. I got it from the horse's mouth. I chose to be hurt by what you did for these reasons. They feel cornered and double down. Oh man, that isn't what happened. Right? Repair becomes less likely. That cycle. That was avoiding accountability at layers, just attacks, repeated. Put a repeating sign over that. That's going to keep repeating. If you are not conscious enough to pull through it. If you're not conscious enough to recognize it right when it happens. You're going to get into a shame spiral. And it's just keep like a tornado. You're just going to keep spinning and spinning, causing destruction. Accountability, I look at, and this may sound heavy. I look at accountability as good, and I look at unaccountability as bad. I look at unaccountability as bad because think about the negativity that it leads to and that it entertains. I think about accountability as good because it offers repair. It makes things that it eliminates extra behavior, extra fights, extra words. It minimizes pain and impact, all of these things that we talked about. To me, if I had to judge between those two sets of behaviors, accountability is, to me, and maybe I'm missing something, maybe you have a different opinion, but it's the more good thing to do as we continue to learn this information and as I learn it and process it. If I had to put a halo on one side, probably would put it on accountability, right? Look how far we're willing to go to be unaccountable. Where's the integrity there? Where's the morality there? Where's the self-morality, the self-integrity? To continue to jump through all of these hoops, victim flip, minimize, get defensive, to hide self. All right, a shame attack is when their shame turns outward. They accuse you. They shame you back. They become cruel to regain power. Blame shifting. Become cruel. They may say something hurtful. They know if they hurt you, the subject of whatever you were holding them accountable for doesn't matter anymore. Now they're on the subject of they hurt you. All of this is to get out of the mirror. I'm telling you, you want to see something interesting. Don't do this, but I will do this. I want a video of just walking up to people or walking past people. Obviously, we're not going to harass anyone. Walking past people with a mirror just to see how they react. We see you. Right? Can you see you? You know? That's why you should always have a mirror in your house. I've never been to a bathroom that didn't have a mirror. I've been to some pretty bad bathrooms as well. They had a metal mirror and it was warped, but they had a mirror. You should always be able to see yourself and want to see yourself as your true self. Only then can you set forth the solutions to better yourself. Why? If they can make you feel smaller, they stop feeling small. Okay? Shame attacks. You get attacked for asking someone a question of accountability that made them feel shame. Oh, how dare you ask me that? And they turn on you to avoid self. All right, shame can also produce fake accountability. I've seen this. Some people perform accountability to escape shame quickly without true repair. Examples: fine, I'm horrible, okay. Dramatic collapse. Sorry you feel that way. A non-apology. We talked about that. How can you be sorry for someone else's feelings and what they choose to feel? I said sorry, what else do you want? Closure without change. Get this off me immediately. I am uncomfortable. Remember, in the last episode, we said you need to learn how to be comfortable in discomfort. You need to find some comfortability in being uncomfortable so that you can make the right decisions that don't create negativity, that allow repair, that allow growth within your life. Now, why it is fake? The goal is to end discomfort, not to rebuild trust. All right. Healthy shame versus toxic shame. Now, this is rare. Okay. This is very rare. Now, it's rare because healthy shame is rare but possible. It says, that's not how I want to show up. I need to correct this. Now, we talked about, and we'll talk about toxic shame here, but you see how healthy shame is? You see you are in a position of shame, but you immediately go to solutions. You immediately go to the questions of, how do I make this better? It leads to repair when the person has emotional skills and safety, right? We want to have those emotional skills, and we want that safety, right? To feel like, okay, what I did was shameful. I'm embarrassed. It doesn't align with who I identify with and who I want you to see me as. But I need to correct this. You don't go to defensiveness. You don't go to minimizing. You don't go to blame shifting. You don't go to victim flip. You don't go to any of these unaccountable behaviors. You sit in that mirror and you see what you did. And instead of seeing a bad person when you look in that mirror, you see a person that you want to help fix this situation. All right? That's healthy shame. Now, toxic shame says, I'm unworthy. If you see me clearly, you'll reject me. It leads to hiding, control, aggression, or withdrawal. Right? That toxic shame I just told you. When someone holds the mirror of self up to you based off your actions or what you've done, it's toxic if you look at self or you think about self as a bad person, as unworthy, as ashamed, right? All right, so now we have a very good understanding of shame. Let's look at guilt. Now, looking at shame, we see how healthy shame could potentially get you to repair and corrective measures. But we notice most of the time shame kind of leads us to be more unaccountable. Now let's look at guilt and let's define guilt and see what guilt has to offer us instead of shame, or when we turn shame into guilt. All right, so guilt is the painful recognition that you did something wrong or harmful, focused on a specific behavior and its impact. It keeps the self intact enough to fix what happened. Core message, I did something bad. Remember, shame is I am bad. And if you feel you're a bad person, you're going to fight harder for you. But guilt is I did something bad, meaning of the thousands of things I've done in life, this is one of the bad ones that I did. I can correct that by doing more good things, starting with repair for whatever I feel guilty for. All right. So if you look in society, and there have been conversations, we're Americans, everything, we go through what we go through, and we're human. And at the end of the day, we're human. We're not perfect, obviously. I know everyone says that, but it's the truth, right? And you look at some of the issues in society. Tell me, what issues do you think cause people to not want to repair what they've done? Could you see it now? Look at all levels, whatever your example may be. A group of people was done wrong by another group. The victim group tells the other group, or I don't want to say the victim group, the group that the harm was done to just informs the other group this was a harm. What are you going to do about it? The other group is existing in shame. They feel like they're bad people. They're using all of the tactics of unaccountable behavior or behaviors of unaccountable people because they don't want to deal with repair because they're trapped in shame. It's not that they can't get out. They're stuck. And while they're in shame, they want to minimize. They want to be defensive. They want to avoid. They want to victim flip. They want to do all of these things to avoid accountability. And that's why I say accountability is a bigger problem for humans than we think. It's rampant throughout our social systems, are all layers of it, starting with the self. Starting with self. They're unaccountable. They've made shame a paradise. As long as you don't bring up what issue they did, they're fine, happy, living their own life. But they don't realize that they're missing out on a better life, because shame doesn't give you the life that guilt and repair gives you. You're turning prison into paradise. And that's why they struggle with making it right with that group that they harmed, that they have been informed that they harmed. They don't want to deal with the consequences. They don't want to, and the consequences in the sense of they need to repair what they've done. Right? But that's too deep. Right? That's too deep. So, but that's my whole point. You could see people that live in shame. They're scared to stand in the mirror. And when they have to stand in the mirror, they become victims. Anything but be accountable, repair, and never do the situation ever again. Right? So what guilt does in the mind? The cue, that was wrong. Meaning, I need to own and repair this. Other focus, attention moves to impact. Repair urge, apologize, correct, or change. When you love someone and you do something to them, I was playing basketball with my son earlier, and I got a rebound or something. I dunked and it's a lower rim, and I dunked and I kind of elbowed him, but I felt guilty. I didn't feel shame. I elbowed his arm, and he was okay. It wasn't hard or anything like that, but he was okay. But in that instance, when it first happened, before I even got my bearings about myself from the rebound, or forget exactly what it was, I immediately said, "Are you okay?" Right? I was concerned with the impact. I was concerned with what I did inadvertently, but it's still having an effect on someone else in a negative way. I felt guilty. I didn't feel shame that I was playing basketball, teaching my son how to play basketball, or we're just out there exercising and I get the rebound and I hit him. Now, I would have felt shame if I did that on purpose. I am a bad person, but I didn't. I felt guilt. And that's an example of how to use guilt to repair. I apologized. I asked him, was he okay? I asked him to take a break and take a seat, and it didn't happen anymore. Repair was there, right? Why guilt can support accountability. Guilt targets behavior, and behavior can be changed. When you say I did something wrong, you're saying that I behaved wrong, right? But when you say I am wrong, you feel that that is defining who you are, a sense of unworthiness, right? That makes it easier to meet the requirements of accountability without collapsing into defensiveness. Remember our steps of accountability, right? We acknowledge, impact, right? We repair, we never repeat. Sounds like guilt is going to lead us there. We need to feel guilty more so that we can get to corrective measures and repair, so that we don't repeat the same tired patterns over and over, which is the definition of unaccountable. Okay? So what guilt is designed to do? Healthy guilt is an internal guidance system that supports empathy. My actions affected someone. Remember that. In our journey, we learned that empathy is necessary for everyone, in my opinion. Now, we may have situations where we feel we don't have to be empathetic, but I am pro-human, all human life. We are just in a phase in time where we are extremely separated or segregated. We're not moving as one motion, right? And I understand that. I was born in that time. But with companies like No Self Hate, through our advancements and through our evolution, we will eventually understand that we are all one, right? And that will be the common thing. And it would no longer be, oh, my group first or my group this. It will be humans first, right? So always have that empathy, okay? Values alignment. That violated what I believe is right. Repair motivation. I should make this right. Behavior change. I want to do better next time. You see how guilt is designed to lead us to accountability? And the name of today's episode is Shame versus Guilt. What enables unaccountability? Looks like we're finding out what it is, right? So guilt is uncomfortable on purpose. It is meant to create enough pressure to correct course without destroying self-worth. See, that's what shame does. Shame destroys self-worth. Guilt is, I did something bad. One of the 1 million things I'll do in my lifetime. Here's my group of bad things. Here's my large group of good things. I got to throw that in the bucket on the bad side. I don't want to keep adding to that bucket, so I'm not going to repeat that anymore. All right. Guilt in the subconscious. Look, we talked about it with shame in the subconscious. So guilt is a behavioral signal. I violated my values or harmed someone. The subconscious still feels discomfort, but it does not usually feel like I am unsafe as a person. Right? Shame makes us feel like we're unsafe. Like, I'm vulnerable. I'm the only one here that's worried about me. Right? It feels like I need to fix this. That is guilt. That is what we were given instinctively. That is the good superpower that we have, is knowing how to feel guilty instead of feeling shame. Knowing how to, even in those tough situations where we have fear of shame or we do feel shamed, being able to understand the process to turn that into guilt so that we can correct it. Not just for the people outside of us, but if you're carrying around shame, that is just a more potent form, a more destructive form of guilt. I would say shame is a destructive form of guilt. And you know how to turn that shame, or you know how to instinctively feel guilt, knowing you're not a perfect person, knowing this is the first time you're ever doing anything when you're doing it, in the moment that you're doing it the way that you're doing it, knowing that error will be there, having the self-mercy, the self-love, to know that this one thing doesn't define who you are, no matter how small the conversation or how large it is. It doesn't define who you are. It's just a behavior that happened. You'll have plenty of things like that in life, plenty of times where you'll have the opportunity to behave as a good person. So remember that. I want to stress that so much. Over the past few weeks, I've been using this information in real time with my family, with myself. I'm able to see how guilt it makes everything, it makes accountability super fast. Whereas with unaccountability, you got to ask additional questions and corner in a different way. Like, that's shame, right? But with guilt, people felt, and I watch my family, and shout out to my family. They are taking this no self-hate journey with me, and they are all getting better. And I don't mean better like they were in a bad place. I want to say we are all learning more and enhancing self. I watched it across every family member I had. In moments when they were unaccountable, I pointed out, hey, wait, you just had a behavior of an unaccountable person. Think about it. What do you feel right now? Is it fear of shame? Is it fear of consequences? Is it identity protection? What do you feel that's making you be unaccountable? And they were able to hone in onto exactly what they felt. You know what? I felt shame. Or my children may say, oh, I felt fear of consequences. I wanted to protect how you all see me. And they're all processing it and growing and getting a deeper understanding of accountability, thus raising their accountability IQ. Now, guilt in the subconscious, what it automatically produces when it's healthy, approach. Lean into the conversation instead of escaping it. Oh, I did that? Oh, I thought I was doing this and I did that. I'm sorry. Like, truth telling. Here's what I did. Where you're able to identify the shared truth. Guilt allows you to identify the shared truth as, more so than the subjective truth, your own self-truth, right? Empathy, awareness of impact on the other person. In the example I gave you earlier, playing basketball, immediately knew that when I got that rebound and I hit my son's arm, that it hurt it. Ouch, I wouldn't want to get hit in the arm like that. I was instantly able to go into it because I used guilt. Instead of, oh my God, I've elbowed my son, I'm the worst father ever. No, we were hooping, playing basketball. He's a big boy, right? And we were hooping, and an accident happened. We repaired it. Wasn't anything serious. This was super minor. But that's how conscious I am. That's how hypervigilant I am. That the smallest impact I'm able to pick up and magnify. Like, if that thing happened to me, oh my God, right? Empathy, right? Empathic. Okay? All right? Repair drive, apology, action plus action, making it right, preventing repeat. Immediately, son, you okay? I'm sorry. That was not my intent. We're hooping. Gets a little crazy. I didn't mean to do that. Hey, go over there, have a seat, take a break. Your arm okay? You sure? You need to go to the hospital. Anything like that? No. It wasn't that bad. Obviously, it wasn't. But we're looking at it, and immediately I was driven to repair. Learning. What do I change so this doesn't happen again? Hey, calm down. Right? We're out there playing on a dunkable rim. I'm thinking I'm Vince Carter in his prime, and we're just out there having fun. Maybe I don't need to be going so hard. And I didn't. And I just started shooting jumpers. And they lost. Right? It was better for me dunking. It's like a video game, I know. You could hit a jumper better than you could hit a layup. Right? But they let me shoot jumpers, and it got crazy. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. I changed the behavior. Instead of driving in, trying to post up and dunk like Shaq, I just started shooting like Steph, right? So, subconscious goal of guilt, restore alignment with values and repair the relationship. My values align with me not harming any human or taking away from any human to the best of my ability. Okay, those are my values. Those are the values that I share with my family. No matter what human you are, you deserve respect, you deserve honor, you deserve love, you deserve empathy, you deserve credibility. And these are my values. Guilt helps me align with those because I know at the end of guilt, there's always an escape. There's always a way back. There's always repair, right? So keep that in your mind. When people come up to you and hold you accountable, be able to go to guilt first. You know what? This person has credibility. I love this person. This person could be telling the truth or is telling the truth. It is their truth. So I will look at it as truth. They said I did something I don't necessarily agree with. But if they did, they say that I did something. I have to trust them that they're telling the truth. And I did do something if that's the case. And I apologize for that. Please forgive me. I won't repeat this behavior. What can I do to make this situation better? You see the goodness in that? I don't want to affect anyone in a negative way, because that comes from the peace within self. There's no ripples in my lake. So I'm extra cautious when I cause ripples in other people's lake or water. There's no ripples in my water. From what is within will come out. If I'm peaceful within, that would be my intent on my outward actions. The definition of good starts from within. Your goodness can only come from within. All right. Guilt in the subconscious. I believe so why does this happen so fast? So we're still on guilt in the subconscious. There were multiple slides, so we're going to cover all of it. Why does this happen so fast? The brain prioritizes emotional regulation first, logic second. Think about that. First, calm down, regulate. Calm down. Anything that's brought to you, you hear it, you're going to get that adrenaline, you're going to get those feelings and those impulses and those instincts. Calm down. Let the first stop be calm and cool. It's not as bad as your heart and your adrenaline and your brain is making it. Calm down. Okay? Then think about what's going on. But our first stop is calm because of inner peace, not necessarily from what we show on the outside. But you can tell I'm a calm person because I'm instinctively calm first. People that aren't, think about it. If we talk about what is within comes out, if you're always, when someone tells you you're always angry and snapping, that's letting us know self is in a little mess. Self needs to work on self. You need to work on some things of knowing and controlling, self-control, self-regulate, have self-integrity, have self-values, right? So people could see who you are by the way you react. Be calm first. Next, shame activates a self-protection program. Guilt activates a course correction program. Shame activates a self-protection program. Guilt activates a course correction program. Solutions. If someone grew up with punishment, humiliation, or unpredictable reactions, their subconscious learned admitting fault equals danger. So shame responses become automatic. Simpler terms. Shame equals protect self. Guilt equals correct self. Quick self-check questions to spot it in real time. If your first urge is to hide, attack, deflect, or explain, that's usually shame and unaccountable behavior. If your first urge is to own it, understand impact and fix it, that's usually guilt, which leads to accountable behaviors. All right, so what guilt feels like inside, right? And we're going through this whole thing, you know, it'd be us if we didn't do that. All right, so what guilt feels like on the inside? Regret. I wish I didn't do that. Concern. Did I cause harm? Is that person okay? Right? I was watching some of these detective shows and these people would do these crimes and then they would get in the interrogation room and you knew the ones that knew they made a mistake versus the ones that knew they may have felt they were the mistake, right? The ones that knew they made a mistake were like, hey, did the victim survive? Is the victim okay? Or did this situation do this? And the detectives always say, well, we'll talk about that later. Right now, let's focus on this. That's normally a good sign that a person is associating themselves to guilt versus shame. They're acknowledging that, hey, something I did caused harm. Is that person okay? Right? Responsibility. I need to fix this. Restlessness. Something is unresolved. When you feel guilty, it stays with you. I often think guilt is guilt is your soul's body cam, right? That the ultimate can always see, the ultimate energy, the ultimate laws of nature can always detect and see through that and see how you truly feel and how you truly are, and it stays with you. You don't just get to escape guilt by trying these psychological tricks. No. Guilt, notice how potent guilt is. Notice how potent shame is within the mind, right? Body level signals, heaviness in chest or stomach. Again, similar to shame, right? All shame is toxic guilt, right? That corners you. Remember, in that dead end cul-de-sac, right? Mental replay of the moment where you keep having flashbacks. This has happened to me. Urge to reach out, clarify, apologize, or over-explain. We want to feel guilty. We want to use guilt to enhance ourselves, our relationships, our output, our value, well, our outcomes, which could potentially create value for those around us. We want to leverage guilt. We have to get rid of shame. All right? What healthy guilt looks like. Okay? Accountability mode. Behavior markers. Names to behavior without excuses. Oh, I did this thing. My daughter did this earlier tonight. I did this thing. I'm sorry. I don't want this to happen again. Here's what I'm going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. Right? Names impact. That affected you by potentially endangering something. Right? Acknowledges responsibility. That's on me. See how guilt leads you to these accountable things? Because you want to get from under the feeling of guilt when you're processing it right. And we know toxic guilt is shame. You don't want to feel shame. You're trying to get away from guilt as soon as you can, but within reason and at the pace of the person that you've offended or that you've done something wrong to. Right? But you're putting forth that effort to get from under that. Offers repair. Here's how I'll fix it. Changes behavior consistently. Most important part. Changing the behavior that consistently equals this result. Okay? Examples. I interrupted and dismissed you. I'm sorry. Next time I'm going to pause and ask if you want support or solutions. I missed the deadline. I'm notifying the stakeholders now, and I will deliver by 2 p.m. I'm also setting a buffer so it doesn't happen again, right? That guilt is your path to growth. Having healthy guilt, being able to know that guilt is a part of life. And when mismanaged, guilt can turn into shame, toxicity of one's behavior, the ignorance of self. We want to feel good. Remember, I said the best feeling I ever felt in life was happy. I don't know any feeling that feels better than happy. Shame doesn't feel like it's going to make me happy. It's going to make me think I'm a bad person. That's not going to make me happy. But guilt is the gateway. It's the conduit. It's the bridge to accountability because you know there's repair within guilt. Why it restores trust? It creates predictability. People trust patterns, not speeches. Pattern recognition. Some of us are great at pattern recognition and can notice behaviors, right? It creates trust. It creates predictability. You don't have to be perfect, right? You could just be consistent in acknowledging when you're not perfect. And you all right with me. Okay? Why people avoid guilt even when they are not bad. Okay? Guilt implies cost. If I accept guilt, I may have to change habits, sacrifice convenience, face consequences, admit I was wrong, repair, not just apologize. Guilt implies work, cost. It's something associated, something you are going to have to do to change that feeling of guilt. And that's the only way it's going to leave your heart, is if you repair it. Back to the example I gave earlier with the group of people that may have been harmed by another group of people. You're stuck in shame right now, but you need to shift that to guilt. And we know you've made it. Once you get to guilt and you're ready to repair what you've done, you're ready to change habits, you're ready to sacrifice convenience, you're ready to face consequences. And consequences can just be, it could be financial consequences. It can be cultural consequences. It doesn't have to be anything violent. All right. You would have to admit you were wrong. And you would have to repair it. Not just apologize for it, but repair it and make sure it never happens again. Right? But this is why people avoid guilt, because they don't have the education we do. What we've learned today, the education we have on shame and guilt, they don't have it. They don't understand that guilt is a gateway to accountability. They rather turn shame into paradise. So, guilt avoidance often shows up as, back to the behaviors of unaccountable people, minimizing, it wasn't that serious, justifying, I had a reason, technicalities, that's not what I said word for word. Oh, that is. Oh. You ever met someone unaccountable that in order for them to be accountable or lean towards accountable, you have to be perfect in verbatim of everything that they said? That perfectionism. Now they're demanding perfectionism for them to be accountable. These conditions of accountability. Accountability doesn't require conditions. It requires you to have the courage, the heart, the empathy, the love to want to fix these things. All right. Counter accusations. Well, you do it too. What about tisms? We talked about that. Delay. Can we not do this right now? Push it off. Any victory. Unaccountable people look for any victory they can get other than being accountable and standing in that mirror. Psychological purpose. Reduce obligation and discomfort fast. Remember, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be calm when you're uncomfortable. You have to be patient. You have to be honorable. You have to be respectful when you're uncomfortable. Uncomfortability just requires effort to make the situation comfortable again. When you're in an uncomfortable situation, it requires patience, empathy, effort, repair to make that situation comfortable again. Discomfort, we act like discomfort is such this bad villain that is so dominating that we can't feel uncomfortable from our own behavior long enough. Sit in that discomfort. If you don't like it, if you don't like the truth of being uncomfortable because of something you did, as I tell my family, if you don't like the truth, change it. It's that simple. Toxic guilt, when guilt stops being useful. We had to touch on this, right? So toxic guilt is guilt without repair and without boundaries. It can show up as rumination with no action, constant apologizing to prevent disapproval, taking responsibility for things not yours, walking on eggshells to avoid future guilt. And see, a lot of situations I've been in work situations in the past where there have been these cultures or these environments of guilt that are created to make people walk on eggshells, make people over apologize and avoid disapproval. And, all of these tactics get weaponized. People weaponize guilt, right? That's in my opinion, that's victimhood, right? where they weaponize guilt so that it leverages your behavior. And if you're under that pressure, you'll take any guilt. Oh, I did that? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, hey, I'm sorry. Hey. Like you turn into this walkathon, right? Where you walk wherever they tell you to walk, whether it's at your own expense or not, right? Toxic guilt can be weaponized against you. Okay? Examples. I'm sorry for everything. I don't want you mad. Fear, not repair. This is all my fault when responsibility is shared. Over responsibility. And you got to watch this. I believe in any situation with more than one person, there's accountability always available for both sides. If the thing failed, if success wasn't met, if you're in a relationship and you all broke up, there's accountability on both sides. I don't care. Well, he cheated and well, yeah, he cheated, but did you have to leave? Maybe he's going through something. Maybe he needs some knowledge. Maybe he needs some emotional intelligence. Maybe he needs to trust you more. Maybe he needs to feel that you love him more. Or it's possible he could just be a person that's just on that timing. Maybe he needs to be more truthful with you, right? But you had an opportunity to prevent that outcome. Whether that was through self-sacrifice or whether that was through empathy, whether that was through grace, something we don't talk about enough. Giving each other grace in relationships as human beings that have never done this thing that we're doing before, in the margin of error that exists there. Okay? Why is it still unaccountable sometimes? It can become self-focused. The attention shifts from the harmed person to the guilty person's emotional state. I've seen this, right? You tell someone that they did something. Oh my God, I did that. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. Oh man, I feel bad now. No, just let's talk about accountability. Let's go through acknowledging. Let's go through impact. Let's go through repair. And let's go through not doing it again. We don't have to waste time talking about how you feel about how you did something to me. I'm sorry. We could save time if we just go straight to accountability. All right. So the key connection: shame hijacks accountability. Guilt powers it. Okay. Most unaccountability is not no conscience. It's guilt trying to surface the part of you that knows I did wrong, but shame taking over the part of you that fears, if I admit this, I'll be seen as bad or rejected or exposed. Okay? When shame hijacks, the goal silently shifts from repairing harm to protecting identity. Don't let shame hijack your guilt. You were given guilt as an instinct. Leverage guilt to make you a better person. Don't live behind the walls of shame and guilt forever. Forgive yourself for things that you've done. Ask the person for forgiveness and apologize. And if you have a higher source that you are connected to, ask that source for forgiveness and move on. And don't repeat the behavior again. Sometimes when we want to repeat the behavior again, shame comes with it because we know we're going to do it again. This is a waste of time being in a shame prison. It's a waste of life. I feel for any soul that has spent more than 1 hour in a shame prison, more than 1 day in a shame prison. And some of us have been in our shame prisons for the past, I don't know how many years. Free yourself. You free yourself through guilt and repair. You don't have to continue to blame others for making you feel bad from your actions. You don't feel bad from your actions because people said it to you and brought it to your attention. You feel bad from your actions because you feel guilty. You have a guilty conscience. And you're projecting that whatever you have to do to avoid repair, to avoid empathy, to avoid love, you're projecting that on everyone around you. Don't do that. Why? Because it doesn't make you happy if you're carrying around all that guilt, right? The key connection: shame hijacks accountability, guilt powers it. What guilt tries to do: guilt is the internal signal that says, that was wrong, someone got hurt, I need to make it right. Guilt naturally pushes you towards the accountability step: truth, ownership, impact, repair, change. Truth, ownership, impact, repair, change. You have to put that in your mind and never forget that. When you do something wrong, you're not a bad person. I'm not just saying that, but from your output in life, you've done more good than bad. Okay? When you do something wrong, you're not a bad person. Use guilt to say, I did something wrong. And then once you admit that, that's ownership. The truth and ownership is there. Acknowledge the impact of what you've done. Say, if that was me, I would feel this way. Repair it and change the behavior. Okay? That is how we avoid unaccountability from fear of shame, or shame being toxic guilt, or shame being a lower level, a lower frequency of guilt. Okay? What shame tries to do: shame is the identity alarm that says, this proves I'm defective, I'm about to be exposed, I might lose love, respect, or status. Shame pushes you toward one mission: escape the spotlight. Be able to stand in that mirror. I say that before we start every episode. Don't be afraid of you. Just fix you if you don't like what you see. And you can fix you. We're taking this self journey together. I'm fixing me in front of you all in hopes that you see the way that I'm fixing me, and it inspires you and motivates you to want to fix you. We're walking through it together, individually. This is your journey as well. Think about it. If everyone in the world took that journey, what our politics will look like, what our government will look like, what things would look like, right? So we're going to continue to grow and enhance and accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence together by starting with self, and we're going to spread the word. We're going to go out and show instead of just talk and preach, right? Remember, if we do these habits if we practice guilt and repair and accountability for 90 days, it's a good chance it becomes a part of who we are. Okay? So why shame hijacks guilt in the first place? When guilt shows up, you feel pressure to own the behavior. But if your nervous system interprets ownership as danger, rejection, humiliation, punishment, guilt quickly mutates into shame. Guilt: I did something wrong. We're going to keep saying, I need you to understand that. We're going to use guilt: I did something wrong. Shame: if I admit it, I am wrong. Once it becomes I am wrong, the psyche protects itself like it's under threat, not like it's in a repair conversation. All right? When shame hijacks guilt, the unhealthy path. So let's walk through this unhealthy path again. I hope up to this point you all have been able to understand everything and follow everything well. Okay? But for those that may still be at this point and still trying to understand how shame is, plays into guilt, and how shame is toxic guilt or rotten guilt that removes a sense of self-worth, let's go deeper into some visuals. So the unhealthy path when shame hijacks guilt. Mistake, shame, defensive avoidance, unaccountable behavior, broken checklist, repeated harm. Let's look at that. All right. So, mistake happens. It's the starting point. Something happens. You make a mistake. Shame activates. Identity threat. Internal state. I'm about to be seen as bad. I'm going to lose respect. I'm in danger of rejection. Now the goal is not repair. The goal is self-protection. Okay, now you got to protect your image, right? Defense avoidance begins. How shame escapes. Common shame escape moves. Denial. Our behaviors of unaccountable people. Minimizing, blame shifting, tone policing, victim flip, withdrawing, and aggression. Now we're in toxic land. Now, even when you find yourself in this spot, you can still recover. Okay? Remember, work on your recovery time. The recovery time is when you recognize something is wrong. Whether that's in the beginning, the middle, you still have time to always recover. All right? The accountability checklist breaks, specifically where it fails. Distort truth to avoid exposure. Dodge ownership to protect identity. Ignore impact to avoid guilt and shame. Delay repair to escape discomfort. Keep change vague to avoid responsibility. Skip follow-through patterns because patterns persist, right? That pattern, it keeps being repeated. This is the unhealthy path, right? You find yourself distorting the truth to avoid exposure. You're in shame. You dodge ownership to protect your identity. You're in shame. Ignore impact to avoid guilt and shame. You're in shame. And shame is toxic guilt, right? So harm repeats and trust erodes. Without repair, conflicts escalate. Think about some of your relationships. Friends, spouses, some that ended. Was repair there? Not only was repair offered, but was repair accepted? Without repair, conflicts escalate. The hurt person reacts more. The unaccountable person defends more. And the relationship loops. Hurt, confrontation, defense, unresolved, repeat. Hurt, confrontation, defense, unresolved, repeat. And if you all have been in some relationships dealing with people that you love or people that you're trying to love, you know this is very true. Someone gets hurt. Someone is confronted. Someone gets defensive. Defense turns into this savagery of emotional intelligence. It goes unresolved and it keeps getting repeated because it's not being repaired and corrected. Okay? Now, let's look at the healthy path. All right? Healthy path. Mistake, guilt, accountability checklist, repair, trust. All right? Mistake happens. This is the healthy path. This is the path we want to take. From the smallest conversation to the largest. We're not afraid to stand in that mirror. And we're going to put out the behaviors and the effort that we want to represent us. So if we do have to stand in that mirror, we're not afraid. Okay? We don't fear shame, consequences. We don't fear identity revealing. We don't fear any of these things. We're able to love self and be able to understand that self is imperfect and self will make mistakes, but self is not bad. Okay? Mistake happens. You snap, lied, missed a deadline, dismissed someone, broken agreement, whatever. Guilt shows up. Internal state, that was wrong. I caused harm. I need to fix it. When you realize you've done something wrong, the next step is not to defend it. The next step is to fix it. Okay? We want to avoid those behaviors of unaccountable people. Episode 7, part 2 of 5. If you don't know exactly what that is, check that out. Okay? This is the crucial moment. Guilt keeps your identity intact enough to stay present. Well, you know there's a solution. You know there's light at the end of the tunnel. Shame makes it feel like it's all darkness. Right? You run the accountability checklist. What it looks like in real life. Truth, here's what's happened. Ownership, that's on me. Impact, I see what I did and how it made you feel. Context, here's why, not an excuse, but here's the context to how I got to that. This information is relevant for me to not repeat this behavior again, and I wanted to share that with you. Right? Repair, here's how I'll fix it. Change, next time I'll do this thing. Follow through, actually do it. Put the effort into doing it, to changing the behavior. Transparency, give updates. Hey, a few weeks ago we had a conversation about this, and I just want you to know I'm still working on it. It hasn't happened since then. I don't plan on it happening. I'm moving on. I understand where I needed to get some knowledge on some things. I received that knowledge and I'm moving on, but I just wanted to update you to let you know I am aware of what you went through and that I'm still making sure that I never put you through that again. Okay? Consequences, I accept it. If you stop talking to me for a week, I can't wait to talk to you. It's not, oh man, she stopped talking to me. Man, forget her. No, you did something wrong, and consequences come with accountability sometimes. It's not the end of the world. Stand in your poop, as I said. Deal with it. It's uncomfortable, it's discomfort, but wait till it's time to fix it. Okay? Emotional maturity, stay present. Okay? You see someone crying in front of you, you want to check out sometimes, especially if it's something you did or some behavior you caused. Stand there. Be emotionally mature to handle that situation. Repair happens. The harmed person feels seen, validated, protected by change. They forgive you. You all move on. And the person that's out here in a relationship for 1 year here, 2 years here, can't maintain relationships long. Here's the path. And that makes what I said previously possibly true. You could be with anybody you choose to be with. You could be with anybody you choose to take this healthy path with every time something comes up. Someone that you choose to have good intent with. You could be with anyone if that's what you want. Right? Trust grows or rebuilds. Trust is not built by a perfect apology. It's built by clarity plus ownership, consistent repair behavior over time, prevention of repeats. That's how trust is gained. I could trust that you won't do this to me again. I could trust we won't go through this thing again. Right? All relationships, mother and father, father and child, mother and child. This is the path. Okay? Take this path. Your heart's going to be lighter. There's going to be no ripples in your lake. You're going to be calmer. People are going to trust you more. Your love is going to grow because you're not constantly in this dead-end cul-de-sac of shame that don't let you open up to fully love and open your love receptors for those around you to improve, enhance your love for those relationships. Shame restricts that. Your relationships go deeper when you're accountable. All right? So, a few more examples. I raised my voice. That was wrong. I see it made you feel unsafe and dismissed. I was stressed, but that's not an excuse. I'm sorry. Right now, I want to repair by listening fully and addressing what you needed. Next time, I'm taking a pause before I respond. I'll check in tonight and tell you how I am applying that information we talked about earlier. Right? How I'm applying that change I told you I was going to do. Right? And look at all of this content we went over today. The goal is to preserve your relationships. The goal is to keep your heart clear, to keep your conscience clear, to keep you focused on the things you need to be focused on. But it starts with self. Okay? All right, so today we are going to try something new to close out today's episode. something, you know, I've never done here at No Self Hate, but I want to make sure that this information resonates with you and stays with you, right? Remember, you must apply this logic for at least 90 days if you seek to gain value from this outcome, from this information we've learned today. Okay, perfection is not the goal, but excellent effort. All right, so let's see. Oh, also, throw in the chat, and this is the honor system and integrity. I'm assuming you all have integrity and honor. I'm going to always assume that, right? We're human. We'll go through. If you need to pause the screen, pause it, answer the question, and then hit play. Let me know who got 100 on today's review questions. All right. Number 1, which statement best describes shame? I did something wrong. I am wrong or defective. I need more information. This is not a big deal. Which statement best describes shame? We know shame says I am a bad person or I am wrong. So I am going to go with B. Right? There we go. Which statement best describes guilt? I am unlovable. Everyone is judging me. I caused harm and need to repair it. It's your fault. So here, I caused harm and need to repair it. I've learned from what we learned today, guilt is a gateway to accountability. When used properly, toxic guilt is shame and leads to a dead-end cul-de-sac. I am going to roll with I caused harm and need to repair it. Beautiful. Next up, someone says, so I'm just the worst person ever. What is this most likely? Guilt-based ownership, shame response, healthy repair, or transparency? I'm going to go with shame response because we learned that earlier when people give fake accountability. So, yep, we're good there. Sweet. Hope you're doing well. Which emotion is more likely to produce accountability behaviors? Apology plus shame. Shame, guilt, anger, confusion. We've learned that guilt is the highway to accountability. So that's B. Which is a common shame escape move? That's on me. Well, that sounds like an apology. Here's what I'll do differently. That sounds like changing behavior. You're too sensitive. Wait a minute. I understand the impact. Clearly, you're too sensitive is a shame escape move where you're changing the focus or you're removing the mirror off self so that you can focus on someone else because you don't want to stand in that mirror. All right. Which response shows guilt powering accountability? I'm done talking. That didn't happen. I was wrong. I see the impact. I'll fix it. Why are you attacking me? So that's easy there. It's C. Guilt powering accountability. I was wrong. I see the impact. I'll fix it. In the unhealthy cycle, what usually happens after shame activates? After shame activates, is it repair and prevention? I don't know. Clear ownership? I don't know. Trust rebuilds? I think I'm going to go with B, defense and avoidance, when we look at the unhealthy path that we saw earlier. Which is the best example of impact? Accountability checklist. I was stressed. You're overreacting. That made you feel unheard and disrespected. I'm not that kind of person. D sounds like shame. B sounds like shame. A sounds like shame. Or excuses of unaccountable people or unaccountable behavior. So I'll go with C. That made you feel unheard and disrespected. Why does shame often block accountability? Shame makes people more honest? No. Shame feels like identity threat, triggering defense, maybe. Shame always leads to repair. We know that's not true. Shame is the same as guilt. That is not true. Shame feels like identity threat, triggering defense. I'll go with B. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I don't want to stop the recording now, so please forgive me. All right, next up. What's the best way to shift from shame to guilt? A, prove you're right. Attack yourself harder. Separate self from behavior. I did harm. I can repair. D, ignore it and move on. So obviously that's C. Separate self from the behavior. Remember, you are not bad. You will make mistakes that can be viewed as bad behavior. We could change behavior easily. It's a little more difficult when you think that you're a bad person. Okay? All right. Beautiful. Well, I hope you learned a lot from today's episode. I definitely did. Let's go out here and implement this information we learned today for the next 90 days, if possible, so that we can make it a part of who we are. Remember, you are not a bad person. You may have made some mistakes. Your behavior may have been bad, and you could change it. Okay? You got this. We got this. Right? We have this. Okay? So go out. Hope this helps your relationships in you, most of all. So go get your No Self Hate gear. I got my shirt on. I got my No Self Hate shirt on right now. A little flexing, it's a little big, but it's all right. Go check it out. Got content. Get your mental health awareness and apparel and accessories now. Visit NOSELFHATE.com to get that. Right. And with that, like, subscribe, share, comment. Get this information out. If you love someone and you know this information is beneficial to you, you got to share it with them now. You got to be accountable to know that if you're not sharing this information with people, you're not necessarily moving good by them, okay? This is life-changing information. This is stuff that I am witnessing the change, not only from self, but for all those that buy in. And I hope you are benefiting and gaining tremendous value from this information. All right? Until next time, talk to you.